Welcome back to the channel, everyone. My name is Belinda Viegers, and today we are going to be looking at this essay, and I wouldn't want to say debunking because that sounds a bit harsh, but we will be reacting to it. Needless to say, I mean, as I read it, you'll know, but needless to say, I do not agree with what this guy is saying in this essay, but I do appreciate he wrote an essay for college because we need to make a statement. Attack on Titan transcends its medium. It is on par with classic literature, and it should be canonized. I mean, maybe not in the Western world, but at least in the Eastern world. I mean, technically Japan is Western, but you know what I mean. This is on par with great stories like Grapes of Wrath, right, Great Gatsby, To Kill a Mockingbird, things like that. So we should be treating this with the same respect. When someone says, "Oh, I want you to write," I mean, I know the teacher didn't assign them technically specifically, but when the teacher says, "I want to write an essay about To Kill a Mockingbird," right? Next week at the say Attack on Titan, it really shouldn't be that much of a big difference or a big joke. Anyway, so with that out of the way, many thanks to this guy for writing this, but with that out of the way, let's just jump right into this essay. And Titan's ending is one that has been debated and theorized over for years. True. With the story having so many mysteries, readers were desperate to piece things together to tie up the loose ends. As April 9th, 2021 started inching closer, many began to worry. A chapter a month with around 50 pages meant that ideally the 11-year story would begin wrapping up in the last two chapters at the least. I think he's right about that. I think I agree. I mean, definitely we all know pages have been a problem. I mean, here's a quote right here. That is from Isayama, or I think it's his editor, actually. But as you can see there, he had to fix his story. He had space constraints, and that's why we had. That's why I was missing 8 pages in the Best Show and Jump version because of space constraints. And so yeah, he's definitely right. But 50 pages each. The last 2 chapters should definitely be wrapping everything up, making it all clean, put a nice neat bow on it. We sort of stumbled into the finish line. We didn't cross the finish line. Right? We did cross, but we sort of stumbled into the ending. Let's continue. The last chapter ended in a cliffhanger, leaving many readers to continue doubting the resolution of Second Titan. Now, I'm sure he's right about this. I mean, and I always read the Tokuban because I just think it's better, and I think it's a really bad idea to read month by month. But yeah, I'm sure after 138 came out, you just had a month to say there's only 50 pages left. This should be interesting, right? Yeah, I agree. There was not enough time to wrap up what was needed to be concluded. There's not enough time to wrap up what needed to be concluded. And many questions that begged answers remained. The concluding chapter of the series would solidify what I and many others were thinking. The ending drew short on too many strings and left the story with unanswered questions on the abandoned plot lines. Of course it did, because again, it was missing 8 pages. So we never got any answer about the headaches. That was never explained. We never got any answer about whether Eren's plan succeeded or not. That was never explained. In fact, the story even implied it contradicted itself because it seems like Mikasa is still sulking and attached to Eren after she kills him. So, of course, the bird thing, you could see that as her being let go. It's much more clear with the 8 pages that are missing. But once those pages got put in, then we now say, okay, yes, Eren's plan did work. Okay, that's why she gets the headache. Okay, that's why, and Mikasa did move on from Eren. So it makes a whole lot of sense. Isayama had written himself into a corner by trying to do too much with limited time, and the manga paid for inequality. From a narrative and character standpoint, the Attack on Titan lacks consistency. That I'd say that's untrue. But again, let's see. This was published in July of 2021. So yeah, this was before the Tokuban came out, which was in October. So it appears as if the Japanese version came out when he wrote this. The English version did not come out until October. So, yeah, so the Tokobon did not come out. So, yes, I definitely lack consistency, as I just said. Mikasa is still sulking when Eren's killed. So it makes no sense as to why Ymir got free. And, I mean, it still makes sense, but it contradicts the entire point of the story, which is about, not, which is what I said in my Ymir video, which is guarding your heart, basically. And, not doing what Mikasa and Ymir did, right? That was the whole point of the story. But instead, we still get Mikasa sulking about Eren being dead, right? So, yeah, I agree. And fails to give the story proper closure. Yes, as I said beforehand. I mean, I guess perhaps someone like Eren Mikasa's shippers were happy that their relationship was better or whatever, but we never knew if Eren's plan succeeded or not. We never knew. And so, yeah, from that standpoint, yeah, definitely. Because he just killed 800 million people. He got killed himself. Armin and Mikasa had to go through all this pain. The whole Wolf Parody arc was riding on this plan succeeding. So, what happened? And of course, we do find out later on, okay, yeah, Eren's plan did end up working, so that gives you closure, right? But beforehand, we had no clue. So, yeah, definitely agree with you. But this is why I read the Tokubon. Now, yes, I know it was technically, before the chapter was announced, he technically did not announce that he was going to have 8 more pages in it. So I understand why you would read it, the chapter, if you read month to month. But after he said it was going to be, that it was missing 8 pages, y'all should just chill out your criticism, because it was missing pages, right? The final arc of Attack on Titan featured Eren and his friends, including fellow main character Armin. Eren and his friends, including fellow main character Armin, going apart due to the war over Parody Island. With the entirety of the world pinned against them, there was only so many solutions the group could choose from. Eren had been leaning more towards the violent side, while Armin stood undecided. Okay, see, this right here. This is wrong. Armin did not go undecided. He actually had 2 plans. The 50-year plan, and say what the 50-year plan. You can say whatever you want with the 50-year plan. What you cannot say is that he stood undecided. He knew. He had a plan, 50-year plan, and then when Eren started rumbling, he said, hold on, stop, in Sinners, right, 133. He said, hold on, stop, we can negotiate peace after this, which they could negotiate peace. Again, I'm not saying what plan is right at this moment. I'm just saying stating objective facts. Do not take me saying anything thus far as what I personally believe. I'm just saying facts. So yeah, he had 2 plans. They had a 50-year plan, and then he said you can stop, because he already started the rumble. He already killed a bunch of people by 133. So he said you can just stop now, right? People will listen to you now. People will listen to us now. And those were, I'm now going to state my opinion. In fact, my opinion is usually right, but those were pretty decent plans, right? Those were pretty decent plans. But of course, Eren responds with another pretty reasonable counter-argument. He says, I will not leave Parody's future to fate. It makes sense, right? It makes sense why he would do that, especially not just as a patriot, but as a person who seeks freedom, right? He doesn't want Parody to be dependent on other nations' actions. So it makes sense, right? And unfortunately for Armin, Eren did not want to risk Parody. So no, Armin didn't stay on his side. He had 2 plans, which were perfectly reasonable. I mean, you could say, there's flaws here and there's flaws there. Sure, there are flaws, for sure. And the problem was that Armin's main priority was to make sure that the most amount of humans survived. That was his main priority. Eren's main priority was to make sure his country was safe. Those are both perfectly reasonable goals, right? Those are both perfectly reasonable motivations. There's no problem with either of them, right? So, from a Jaeger's perspective, it looks as though Armin did not have a plan, but he did. It just wasn't a plan that you thought was best, which is fair too. Running out of time, which, yeah, it's true. In the last arc, time is really, really emphasized on, because you're right, it's very, very low limit time. Eren acted on his own and started the rumbling to destroy the outside world using Titans. Armin, being against Eren's method, gathered an army of people, including enemies from neighboring islands. technically Marley's not an island, but okay. And his friends that were willing to risk their lives to stop Eren, even if it meant Paradise Island would be doomed. Yeah, he hit the nail on the head there. Exactly what I said. He cares about the rest of the world. Yeah. The dilemma, the dilemma Isayama put Eren in did not work because he gave Eren so many powers that the character's actions became illogical. Now right here, this is going to be a major disagreement. So far, I've disagreed with a little bit of things, agree with some other things. Here's where you're really going to start to see the real criticism. If Eren wanted to protect his friends and rumble the world, he was fully capable of both. His inner conflict and his actions were contradictory to his abilities. 100%. And he should have gone a step further. He should have said, Eren had the Warhammer Titan and could have played the hardest game of Where's Waldo ever and buried himself deep underground with this crystal, right? Hell, he could have made like a whole cage and stuff and traps. Even if the Jaw Titan came, he had to bite through all these traps and bars and stuff. And then eventually there's Eren in like a 3-layer crystal, right? So he could have he should have gone a step further and he should have said that, right? Which me being a Tokuban reader. I finished reading chapter 134 at around I believe it was March, the middle of March. So I have from March until October to think about what I've just read. And of course, one of the thoughts was, hey, Eren could use a Warhammer Titan and do what I just described. And why didn't he? I asked myself. I was asked, well, why didn't he do that? Well, actually, there's lots of very interesting reasons why he didn't do that. But one of which being the fact that we have a couple of things. We have 131 and we have 139. 131 is when Eren admits what he is doing is evil. This entire time, from 120 to 122, 123, I keep forgetting the exact chapter from 122, 123, no, it's 122. When he starts rebelling in 122 to 130, let's say 129. From 122 to 129, we thought, okay, Eren's doing this for his country, Eren's doing this for his friends, he wants to make sure they're safe, alright, cool, alright, he's a big patriot, alright. And then, out of nowhere, he tells Ramsay, and of course he tells Ramsay, we've all heard this before, because he cannot speak his language, he does not understand what he's saying. It's sort of like, when they go to the priest and they, confess right behind like the window where they can't see each other. That's pretty much what happened, right? He didn't tell anyone else his actual intentions until he met this kid, because he just had to tell them because he was weighing on him so much how evil he was. And he says to him, I'm doing this because I'm disappointed in the world and I wish to wipe it all away, right? And then retroactively we go to chapter 100 where we get him saying to Reiner, me and you are the same. Now, why? Why does he say that? Well, if you look back and you see, he's questioning him, saying, why did my mom die, right? And no, he was not trying to guilt trip Reiner, okay? That was definitely not what he was doing. But, maybe guilt trip isn't the word. He wasn't angry about his mom dying. He wasn't like, why did my mother die? I'm going to have to pay for this. That wasn't what he was doing. He asked why his mom died. Right, and he says, and they beat around the bush, and eventually Eren says, well, if you were doing it to save the world, you had no choice. Well, Eren, if you're doing it to save your country, you had no choice. Reiner gets down on the ground and admits, no, that's not why. He did not have a noble reason for doing it. He did it because, even though he knew it was wrong, he wanted to, for his own personal reasons. Now, in Reiner's case, it was to be a hero. He wanted people to think of him as a hero, right? Which I don't think Eren cares about that, but he wanted to be a hero. So even though he knew it was wrong, even though it was not to save the world, he did it for himself. And then Eren says, okay, yeah, I'm right. We are the same. Because Eren is not doing this for his country. He's doing this for him. And even though he knows it's evil, he's doing it. And that is why he says to him, I thought you guys were bad at first, then we slept under the same roofs. Some of you were nice, some of you were evil. The exact same thing happened to Reiner. He thought, oh, these island devils. Remember he said, I'm going to punish these island devils. Then he went over there. Some of them were pretty bad. Some of them were good. And that's why he says, Why does there have to be people like this, right? So that is why. Then we go to 133, where who else but Reiner is saying, pretty much, a bunch of stuff, and then he's saying, I ends with, I'm pretty sure Eren wants to be stopped, right? Because again, Reiner knows how it feels to do something so horrendously evil for a lie. Reiner's the only person in the room. Annie's there. She knows why she's doing what she's doing. She knows she's evil. I mean, she said it multiple times. But she's doing it because, not for a lie. She's doing it because she wants to save her father. That's the truth. Armin's there. He knows what he's doing is evil, but he did it because he knows why he's doing it. He did it to protect his friends, and he did it to save the world. Right? Liberio and the port battle, respectively. Mikasa knows why she's there. Pieck knows why she's there. Connie knows why he's there. The only person in that ship who's done something so horrendously horrific for a lie that they told themselves and other people was Reiner. And so he says, I think this is actually taking its hold, and I think he wants to be stopped. And then we jump to 139. When Eren says, how can I ever be forgiven? They may be saying, well, Beluga, what are you talking about? What that means is that that's an admission of guilt. That is an admission of guilt. In fact, it's more because he's actually accepting a punishment at this point. Or actually, not just accepting, he's more of giving himself a punishment. Because Armin says, we can find another way. So, after the no, I don't want that scene, he goes and he says to Armin, I don't want to die. I want to be with Mikasa and everyone. And Armin, distressed, looks at him and says, Eren, don't give up. We can find another way. We can find another way for your goals to be achieved and for you to still be with Mikasa and not die. And then Eren says, no. I'm sure none of them want to die either. But how can I ever be forgiven? And then it shows, right, I think it's called the grounded panel, right? And then, ashamed, he hangs his head and says, even if you just stopped me in the end, I still would have flattened this world. Right? And before that, Armin asks, did you do this all for us? And he ignores him. Because he's too ashamed to admit to Armin, to his face, why he did what he did. And so, using all of what I just said, it is very, 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 very fair to assume that Eren did not want to complete the rumbling. I'm pretty sure, with all that in mind, we can say, no. His character wasn't pigeonholed to the point where he had to want to do the rumbling and save his friends. No, Eren's character grew up. I think around 131. Eren's character grew up and he realized, no, I shouldn't be doing the rumbling, right? And of course, I think he grew up even more when he was forced to admit he loved Mikasa. Because remember, he didn't say that beforehand. Remember, Armin had to pester him, right? Armin had to punch him to get that out of him. So seeing his freedom be vain in 131, having to admit those feelings for Mikasa, having to say, I want to be with Mikasa, right? I think his character, I don't think anything. This is what happened. Eren's character grew up. Eren's character got development. Eren's character now realized that rumbling is not the way for personal freedom. Again, I'm not talking about parody. We are not talking about parody right now. We can have a separate conversation about the rumbling and geopolitics, whatever. Actually, you're not going to be able to see this, but I had a debate with Raw about the rumbling. If you want to go see my thoughts about the rumbling for parody, check the debate out. You will see me mincing no words. But for Eren's personal freedom, killing people was not the answer for him. And this is his relationship with Mikasa. And that is why he dropped the rumbling, and then he let his friends kill him. And then he made it so that they were free. Right? So, no. There is no conflict. He's growing up. That's like saying, yeah, I don't know what to use for that, but cut that out of there. But, yeah, so no, there's no inner conflict between Eren and his friends in the rumbling, right? His actions do make sense, right? He knew he was doing the rumbling for an evil reason, and he knew the reason he was doing it was not the right reason, and he knew that he needed to drop it. Alrighty. As Ryan put it, Isayama needs Eren to be torn between the rumbling and his friends. He put friend there, but it's supposed to be friends. But this defies narrative logic and was not in line with their personality. One, since most of Eren's powers had already been established before the final arc, Isayama could only save the narrative by using some cheap plot trick or creating a logical third option in the situation that would both please Eren and Armin. This cheap plot trick is an attempt by the author to fix the problem through hacking devices. Isayama tried to find an alternative route. I was hoping for Armin to come up with solutions, but I couldn't make it, and then left him with the option of using a Deus Ex Machina, which resulted in an abundance of plot holes. Deus Ex Machina is a device to use to abruptly conclude an apparently insoluble difficulty. Since Attack on Titan was not built on game-like or rule government-powered system, the plot fell through and left the narrative in shambles when few things made sense. Isayama chose to sacrifice character writing realism and abandon two of the most fundamental aspects of Attack on Titan, and how it has been praised for the pieces of fiction. Okay, this entire thing I'm going to debunk cautiously. I don't like to run a few arguments I don't fully understand. He references cheap plot twist, Deus Ex Machina. As said beforehand, Eren getting killed was a work of his own hand, right? As I just said, Armin gave a third option that he could have used, but he wanted to be punished instead because he saw physically. I mean, not physically. He saw the result of the rumbling, right? This is supposed to be juxtaposed to the Freedom Panel, right? Where he's in the sky, in the clouds, a child. Now he's on the ground, actually able to look at his damage, and is an adult. And so he decides it's not right for him to live. He must be punished for this. And yeah, so definitely, if that is the cheap plot twist cheap plot device you're referring to, if that is the Deus Ex Machina you're referring to, that's the answer for that. And if you're going to say, and I know you mentioned it's not in line with his character, I know that. It's called character development. Stick with me. Character development. That's like saying Mikasa killing Eren isn't in line with her character. 100% it's not. Because her character developed. That's what good characters usually end up doing. They end up developing. So Eren's freedom, which he had an idea of since he was 9, right, was flawed up until he was 19, and then he realized, oh, it was Mikasa this entire time, right? And so, yeah, it's a character development. That's proper narrative writing. That's proper thematic writing. That's proper character development. That's exactly what we want. Because Eren's idea of freedom was disgusting. This is when we see this because we see when he's tearing up bodies, tearing up people. In fact, let's get 131. Let's look at this. They were always just there whenever I looked from the day I was born. Those miserable walls. Water on fire, land made of ice, fields of sand. The outside world must be 10 times bigger than inside the walls. Look at this. Look at this. This graphic, which they're not going to animate. Mappa's not going to animate it for the TV version, I'll tell you that. This graphic depiction. As Armin is saying, anyone who saw those things. This is not an accident. He's showing the massacre, the incredibly violent, visceral, in its most gruesome form. Heads are flying, there's hands broken and all sorts of stuff. Start screaming. Anyone who saw those things, that's what Eren's remembering, would be the freest person in the world. As we see a woman's face in half, we see it crushing buildings. I think this might be intestines, it's hard to tell. And I think that's actually Ruben. Then he says, Eren says, this is it! Freedom! Yay! Good for you, Eren. Good for you. And then let's look at 130. Now you remember Sasha, right? When Sasha died, Eren was upset. He was sad. He He wants to know what her last words were. Right? But it was fine because it was all a means to an end. It was all to save Parody, right? But he was still upset by it. Eren's killing people who, A, have done nothing wrong to him, B, are innocent, and C, people who he knows cares about Eldians, since he said that to Reiner. And what does he say about them? I am going to destroy them. Every last one of those animals that are on this earth. So, from what I see here, from 130, 131, 131 again, it appears to me as if Eren's freedom is undeniably killing people. Now, there's a whole lot of reasons why. I'm not going to explain further why. It makes sense, though, I assure you. It makes sense why his version of freedom is to kill people, right? And I'll explain in the video, or if you can leave a comment if you want me to respond or whatever. But that's his version of freedom, as we can see here. And what happened is that he grew from that to be a person who decided to, instead of using killing, mass killing, not even genocide, genocide was too weak for him. He wanted to use omnicide for his vehicle for freedom. He instead decided to use love for freedom. And not only was this a much better option that made him happy and everyone else happier, it made a lot of sense from what we see from chapter 1 to chapter 137 to chapter 139. It makes sense why it's not corny. It's real world, very practical. So no, his character developed properly, right? I don't know what to tell you. Eren's character is perfect in that regard. And speaking of Eren finding love, we're now talking about everyone's favorite female protagonist, Mikasa. Mikasa is the third main character of the series. Taken in by Eren's father before the Titans invaded their home, Eren met Mikasa and Armin at an early age, and the three formed a trio. For most of the series, Mikasa is a girl who has a crush on... Okay, now this is a slight nitpick, but I'm pretty sure Mikasa's love for Eren cannot be classified as a crush. She had much more than a crush for him. Remember, she got skinny in jail because she couldn't be with him or protect him or whatever. That's how bad it was. Her romantic feelings for him are what drove many of her actions that are relevant to the story. 100%. Because his lack of independence as a character persisted throughout the series, but peaked in the final arc. I agree. Again, you should have seen me back in the day, which is why one of the reasons why I did not start my channel until after I read all the manga, after I watched essays from different perspectives, after I really thought about it. That's when I started my channel, right? But I had the idea beforehand. I had the idea a long time ago, but I didn't start until May of this year because I thought, you know what, it's time. But if you look here, he's completely right, because I was the biggest Mikasa hater. I was so angry. I was like, this Mikasa has no character whatsoever. She's so stuck in Eren. Everything's about Eren. And the one time that Eren's dead, she decides to be murdered by Eren still, even after she thinks he's dead. Like, she's like, this is ridiculous. She can't leave it in. She's all the people there, and still has. She's terrible. So yeah, no disagreement there. Her character had hopes of development because Isayama gave her relevance in the Hizuru subplot. Oh! Yes, the subplot where she was going to be used by this, I wouldn't say imperialist, but this lady who was jerking around Parody for her own financial gain. Again, nothing wrong with that. I have absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. Hey, she's a proud state. She's trying to do what's best for her country. Her country needs money. Not a problem, right? She's not their friend, right? I mean, I know they had relations in the past, but as far as Hizuru goes, the way that she abused and used Parody and Mikasa and then sabotaged their foreign relations, I don't really care. She's doing what she needs to do for her country. Kind of like Eren. But no, she was not given relevance in Hizuru subplot. She was being used by Lady Mitsubu. Again, if you want women to be used and you think it's fine for women to be used just because another woman is using her, that's your affair. But me personally, I don't think that her being used for financial gain is relevant to her. So, but no, that's my opinion. Unveiling that Mikasa was a member of the Royal Hizuru bloodline gave her character something that was not related to her love for Eren. It appears like you forgot about the Ackerman. that she was an Ackerman, which had nothing to do with Eren whatsoever. It had nothing to do with Eren. It could be useful in the upcoming ending. How? How can it be useful in the upcoming ending? How? The entire time, Lady Mitsubu was a selfish person. Yeah, it was a selfish person who was using Perry for financial gain, and then towards the end, she wanted to stop the rumbling. What could have been done differently? Kiyomi, the nation's leader, this is another technical error. She's not the nation's leader, she's actually the nation's ambassador. Showed Mikasa kindness and offered her the option that was never explored in the series. Again, even ignoring the fact that this was a pretext, the option was taking her out of the story completely. She was going to go and live with the Mitsubu, which would have had no effect on Eren or anything else. So she would have been completely out of the focus of the story and done away with, unceremoniously, mind you, randomly. Like imagine Mikasa saying, "Actually, Lady Mitsubu, let's go to Hizuru together," and she goes to Hizuru, and you barely see from her again, except for you have a few check-ins in between chapters, and you never really hear from her again. That's what you wanted? That's what you wanted, really. This is what I'm talking about. These people, I don't think they argue in good faith, right? Because this is just ridiculous. Mikasa rejected Kiyomi. Of course she rejected Kiyomi. What did you expect her to do? Say, yes, I know I have lifelong friendships here, and I fought arm in arm with these people, and oh yeah, I love Era, but let me go to a different continent with you. Not even Marley. Let me go to a completely different continent entirely, in Asia, right? Or Western, or Eastern, they said. Western. Eastern, I think they said. Yeah, it said Eastern. I'm confused because it's flipped geography, not because I'm stupid. But anyway, yeah. It's just stupid. By involving Mikasa in the Hizuru subplot, Isayama failed to follow Chekhov's gun. Chekhov's gun, I know what Chekhov's gun is, bro, but I see. It's good for him to explain this stuff. It's just, typical essay stuff. Chekhov's gun is a dramatic principle suggests that authors should only include details that contribute to the overall narrative. Okay, now this is actually a good criticism. It's wrong, of course, but I like how it's actually formed, right? Like, there's two types of debates, right? When it comes to Attack on Titan, there's these futile, stupid debates that I really hate to get into. Like, for example, no disrespect to Comfy, if you're watching, if you know about her, but the whole Eren Historia stuff, there's no reason to talk about that, because that's so obviously not what's happening. The whole Eren isn't free, maybe not Eren isn't free, but the Eren isn't evil. There's no reason to talk about that at all. It's very obvious. We know why. And again, Eren being evil doesn't mean Floch is evil, by the way. Those are two different things. There's no reason to talk about that. There's just these stupid, futile debates that are just made because you have a bias. It's just the dumbest thing. This right here is actually good. He brings up a dramatic principle that we all, universally adhere to and think is correct. And he brings up, hey, this might be violating Chekhov's gun. Good on you, man. Honestly, seriously, good for you for bringing up constructive criticism about Attack on Titan. But sorry to disappoint, but actually, no, they did not follow Chekhov. He did follow Chekhov's gun. Number one, because in fact, the Chekhov's gun goes further, because in the manga she has a tattoo right on her finger, so we had no idea where that came from, right? So that was showed. I mean, that we had no idea where it came from, but that was showed, and then later it was like, oh, they had relations beforehand. And number two, it set up this weird situation where there was only one country that was a pariah state with parity that then Hizuru could use for her own selfish means, right? Because as we get selfishness has always been a theme of the story, from Ymir to Historia to now Eren acting selfishly. Right now we have Lady Mitsubu, right, who's going to use this for financial gain, right? And then of course at the end, when she's talking to Annie, another selfish person, they pretty much say what Armin and Zeke said in 137, right? But for stopping the rumbling. So no, this wasn't really a failed Chekhov's gun principle. That was shown because Lady Mitsubu wanted to have it was more world building, wanted to have relations with Parity. It was explaining the history behind the state of affairs, Seats and Laban in the outside world, and then Lady Mitsubu's falls and pitfalls. I mean, and then her having her own little character development as well. So this wasn't really violating Chekhov's gun, so to speak. And again, if he did follow through, then perhaps it could have been. If they did follow through with what he wanted to happen, then it would have been disastrous for the plot and disastrous for the character in the first place. Alright, since Mikasa had only one meaningful interaction with Kiyomi, when, and never reflected on her family beyond that, Nina reminded you that she considers Eren part of her family, but I know she's trying to say like her lineage and whatnot. That detail of her being a royal was irrelevant. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, did Mikasa specifically have to be a royal? Okay, I will probably give you that, right? I will actually give you that maybe a little bit. Maybe Isayama did not. I think he put royal because, yeah, definitely, yeah, because there's no reason really for her to be a royal for this to work. That's true. Her being a royal member of the Mitsubishi clan has absolutely nothing to do with anything, and it's never. Yeah, okay, yeah. Her meeting Lady Mitsubishi and the whole thing going on there, and the subplot there, that's not irrelevant. That's very relevant to the story. But her being specifically a royal member of that house, that is not relevant. I'd say, yeah. This could be described as a red herring, but since it was introduced in the final arc, there was nothing to compensate for it. Mikasa is reverted to solely being Eren's love interest. Yeah. While Mikasa lacked development, she's an indefinable and stable character in anime. Her strength is introduced early in the series with Eren being jealous of her during training. I don't remember that, but perhaps it did happen. But gradually comes to terms with it in the third season. Attack of Titans reveal that Mikasa's father is an Ackerman who possesses superhuman strength of Titans in human form. Mikasa's beauty, I mean, she probably is beautiful, but I spent so much time hating her that I never really thought she was beautiful, but perhaps she is. Attracted a supporting character, Jean, my favorite, who began crushing her and would jump to her defense. Yep. Ymir, the first ever Titan with godlike powers, was interested in Mikasa's situation and waited 2,000 years imprisoned just to meet her. I wouldn't say that's entirely accurate, but yeah, I mean, 10 years. Ymir was the first Titan with godlike powers who was interested in Mikasa's situation. She waited 2,000 years. I guess you could say on a surface level that is accurate, right? Yeah, she definitely is interested in Mikasa's situation for sure. And as I said beforehand in my Ymir video, maybe you haven't watched it because the quality is terrible, but maybe you haven't watched it. But remember, very important detail: her tongue was cut out. She could not talk to anyone about anything. So that whole thing of working through problems together and finding, counseling and human interaction was never there for Ymir. Right? So it's all the more important that she spies on Mikasa. With no legitimate importance to the plot, Mikasa is the sole reason why the rumbling... No, I'm sorry. Mikasa is the reason why the rumbling stops. She's also the reason the Titans are gone from the Earth. What do you mean she has no importance to the plot? I mean, I could go back, of course, into every single arc and show where she's been important to the plot. But she killed Eren, and she got rid of the Titan powers. So I don't know what... In fact, Eren's entire... Most of Eren's actions since 122, 121 was motivated by a future he saw regarding Mikasa's choice. I don't know what he's talking about here, to be honest. Or maybe it's a she. I don't know who wrote this. This is absurd. This is absurd. Let's continue. Mikasa to the plot. Mikasa marries Sue. Mary Sue is a result of a hero that is too heroic. written with little flaws, seemingly forcing her into greatness. What? What? Do you fair? Check out this right here. This is your Mary Sue character in this too. This is the heroic hero with no flaws, right? This is definitely not a person who is too heroic and has little to no flaws. And besides those two clips, need I remind you that she drew her blade and threatened to kill Annie because she dare suggested to kill Aaron, a mass murderer bent on omnicide, who they knew was bent on omnicide. She drew her blades on her and said, no. Right? She's also the person who drew her blades on Levi. She ended up in prison, for goodness sake. She drew her blade on Levi because he dared suggest that Aaron get the Colossus Titan. She was mean to Laos, right? She helped Aaron kill children, and we know that she knew she was killing children because she's the one who mentioned it. And she helped him anyway. And then when Levi had the audacity to kick Aaron for murdering people and manipulating the Soviet Corps, killing people along the way, Mikasa decides it's a cute idea to go put the screws to Levi until she's held back by Armin. So no. Mikasa is not a Mary Sue. She's an incredibly evil person. And I'm sorry to spoil the video, but this may come out before or after my Mikasa's not a good person video, in which I go in depth about Mikasa's sins and why she is the way she is and why it does for the story. But no, she's an incredibly evil person who sat back and watched millions of people get destroyed because she had to put it lightly, she had a crush. She didn't have a crush, but that's pretty much what happened. Kind of reminds me of Ymir. But anyway, let's continue. Yeah, and no, she was definitely not forced into greatness. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, was she born with beauty? Yes. Was she born with strength? Yes. Was she chosen by Ymir? No, she was not chosen by Ymir. It's like Ymir, manipulated her and, did all this thing. Mikasa was the way Mikasa was, and Ymir was sympathized or felt like she was understood by Mikasa, right? She felt like Mikasa knew what she was going through, so she spied on her, right? So no, I mean, I guess she was she was chosen. Like, she was chosen to be spied on. She was chosen to be Ymir's companion, but she wasn't like, I am the omnipotent god and I choose Mikasa. She's the chosen one and she's gonna free. No, it wasn't like that at all. It's Mikasa acted how she acted of her own free will. Ymir saw that, used her power to spy on her, and followed her through her life, right? So, the subtle nuance that makes it all the more different, right? Mikasa's purpose in the story is defined by factors that are predetermined. Untrue. Again, which diminishes her value as a character. This is a criticism that gets brought up against Eren and against Mikasa, which is completely untrue. No, just because it was predetermined did not mean they had no say in it. It was predetermined because they wanted it to be that way. Let me give you a quick example. We're just a group of friends, group of 3 friends, right? They're picking to do what they want to do that day, right? It's between golf and going to movie theater. 2 of them like golf, right? 1 of them likes movies, so they end up going to golf because they got outvoted, right? That was predetermined, but the reason why it was predetermined is because the 2 friends' nature was to golf. They wanted to golf, so they predetermined their own future in that sense. I mean, not even just not even just the entire time universe, but just think about it like logically. If you like golf right now and you do not like movies, it is predetermined that whenever
a movie situation where you can either go to golf with a movie theater, which is any time you're free, it's predetermined that you're going to go to golf. If someone said to you, right, if a friend came to you, and
so your friend comes to you and he says, I know what we're going to do on Saturday. He says, what? He says, you're going to go golfing. He says, well, that's easy, Jim. I always go golfing on my free time. But couldn't one say, oh, it's predetermined, he was going to go golfing on Saturday? No, it's in his nature to golf. And isn't it true that ever since, as I said beforehand, he picked up golfing, and he had a dislike for movies, it's already predetermined that he's going to go to movies over golf over movies every single time. As I said over and over again, just because something is predetermined does not mean it's out of their free will. It's depending on who's predetermined. If fate is predetermining Mikasa to be Ymir's parallel, no matter what Mikasa does, that means that, yes, it makes her all for actions completely inconsequential and meaningless. If Eren is compelled by fate and being jerked around by the whims of fate, that 100% diminishes his character. But every character, there's nothing difference between Eren and Jean and Mikasa. They're all the same as far as fate goes. The reason why it's predetermined is because they predetermined it by their own nature, right? So, no, Mikasa's character is very much important and very much relevant. And he's going to pull out his trusty sexist card, which I'm not even going to read this, because it's practically, it's not ad hominem in a way. It's ad hominem towards Isayama, I guess you could say. It's ad hominem, and it's just giving a reasoning for why what he just said is true. So I'm not even going to read it, because it's worthless. Because Mikasa is a... I don't want to read that either. Her role in the story relies on Eren, and she lacks an independent character. Isayama's failure to develop Mikasa and give her self-sufficient significance resulted in the plot suffering from cliches and weak storylines. Yo, weak story. Are you joking? Okay, number one. Cliches, I mean, I guess you could say Mikasa just replaced Ara for Era. But, so sure, I guess you could say there's a bit of a cliche there. But I don't think I need to defend weak storylines. That's definitely not even a thing. Like, yes, the Romulan arc, people say, oh, woman was weak. But definitely not weak storylines even before Season 4, for sure, beforehand. I definitely cannot... I'm not going to argue that. It's worthless. But yes, I guess I'll say, if since this is an essay, I have to, be technical here. We had some pretty strong storylines. We had a pretty cool storyline perspectivism with Eren and Reiner, right? We had Eren, thinking his mom being dead, and in fact, Eren says he gets scared through humanity and not finding anyone a fraction as evil, and then he gets a new perspective and he realizes that, oh, actually, Reiner is just as bad as I am, right? So that's a pretty strong storyline there. We had a bunch of, the basement arc was a great reveal, great hook for us in direction for the audience, and it was foreshadowed properly. So, and those are just to name a few very strong storylines, all of which Mikasa played a huge part in. And so, no. So, yeah, the problem is that Mikasa wasn't supposed to be developed, right? In fact, Mikasa not being developed actually would lead to a weak storyline, right? Which would be, well, first off, there'd be no Pine Curse, right? And cliche. I mean, I guess it's a cliche to have a well-written character, but just take it with a grain of salt. I'm kind of being cheeky at that point. But, no. If Mikasa gets developed properly, the story quite literally falls apart. The story is left with nothing if Mikasa is a well-written character. She's supposed to be Ymir, right? Ymir's parallel for a multitude of reasons. And, if you want to know the full reason why, this video's getting long enough as it is, go watch my Ymir first video, right? Then you'll know why. But yeah, no, the entire story falls apart without Mikasa being developed, right? Mikasa not being developed is what story needs. Just like Ymir. It's like saying, oh, Ymir should have Ymir should have developed and gotten over her love beforehand. Okay, yes, but the entire story would make no sense beforehand. Attack on Titan is and always will be one of the most influential books. He says manga, but I think it's. I don't like people call it a manga. It's really not a manga. Again, it transcends its medium, right? Influential book across the world, the series took the world by storm, earned its place as a respected work. The man to thank for this is Hajime Suyama, as his work captivated and intrigued many for over the years. This part, okay, this is going to appear like the biggest nitpick, but this is not what makes Attack on Titan important. Who cares if it captivated and intrigued people? That's what's important. Attack on Titan gave us incredible wisdom and practical life lessons that are extremely applicable. That's really what he should be saying. Who cares if it intrigued you? Who cares if Aaron's speech gives you your spine? Who cares if Aaron's transformation was cool? That's meaningless. The reason why Attack on Titan isn't here today and gone tomorrow, like lots of other shows are, is because it gives practical, timeless wisdom and lessons. There will be an endless discourse over the ending of the series in general, due to conflicting opinions, but my stance remains. It is disappointing to see a series that has come so far. Here's another thing. What do you mean come so far? What do you mean Attack on Titan came so far? How did Attack on Titan come so far? That's a question to you, the audience. Go write in the comment section why Attack on Titan was such a good series beforehand. I honestly want to know, because it appears like it came far. It means Levi was cool and Wit had nice animations. Conclude in such a manner because it could have been a masterpiece outside of just manga. But why is it a masterpiece? I mean, I guess he explained why beforehand. While talking about Attack on Titan will remind me of the poorly written mess of an ending, good times remain in memory and I have fun experiencing the series and made many friends along the way. Well, good for this guy for being a good sport at the end. Alright, so that is my critique, rebuttal of this guy's essay. If any of you guys agree with his points that he made in the essay, you're wrong. You're just most of the points that I contended, you're just objectively wrong. There's no way you're right. And if you think that I'm somehow the wrong one, then debate me. My Discord is in the description, and if you want smoke, come and get it. Anyway, that has been Beluga the Jaegers. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you next.